Okay, welcome back. And I was talking about how we need to there we go. How we need to oversample the geometry here so we can add more divisions there and have more particles and have those holes that we were talking about. So let's start doing that, and I'm just gonna kind of draw here what we're gonna do. Let's say at frame 20, and this is frame 20, which is 21, and I'm drawing with the mouse. Yes. So at frame 20 we have this geometry that is like here, and at frame 21 the geometry moves all over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to split this. So instead of having just this, we're going to have some other frames. Gonna be point 25, point 50, and 0.75 here. So we're gonna have new frames here, and we're gonna have geometry here, geometry here, and I'm gonna have geometry here. And as you can see, the geometry gets screwed up in the process. No, it's just my drawing. And as we're gonna have more geometry in the middle, so we're gonna fill up those gaps that we are having right now in the particles. So let's do that in Houdini now. So here we're gonna let me just make myself more space. To do that, you can we're gonna have to do it from the geometry. So let's go to the main geometry. Where are you? Just hit H to home your nodes, and here's my geometry here. Main geometry. So when we cache this geometry or render it to the to disk, we didn't add that. So we're gonna add that to our files, and we're gonna do it right here. If you see here where we rendered this geometry, this is the main 20 geometry, but that's gonna be just like it is. We are not gonna move that. The one we're gonna oversample is this one, the main particles one. We'll do the other one if we need it, but I don't think we will need it that. So this is the geometry, and right now we don't have any geometry between frames. But also, how can we see the between frames? Because we're just jump from 24 to 25 here. We cannot see between the frames right now. So to do that, we're gonna change some parameters here in Houdini. Go to this button right here, the last button right here, and click at the global animation options. And right here you have the options for how all the time behaves, and right here we have a checkbox for integer frame values, and we're gonna just turn it off. And right now you can see we have a floating point or float frames. We have more than just an integer value there. So let's just put the step to 0.25 here. So when we click here, we have that step as we need. Like if we go to 20, like I was saying in the drawing, you go step forward, go 20.25, 20.5, 20.75, and 21. and that's what we want. So let's close this. And here, how do we render that geometry? Because uh, right now it's not there. If you see, there's still geometry. The geometry keeps still till the next frame, but we want to generate extra geometry in those frames, because there is geometry. If we see the original character here, the original animation, you can see that we do have those frames there, because this is controlled by animation curves, and animation curves doesn't have a gap between them. They are those that information is there. We can oversample this as much as we want, and that might give you the idea of how you can make something go to slow motion or something like that. So to cache that in and have that between frames, just here where you declare the start and end frame, just put instead of the increment right here, just say it says this, it takes an start and end and an increment. Change the increment right here to 0.25 to have 4 frames for each frame. So here we need to change the name also, because right here this is for integer frames, and what we need is floating frames. So the expression, the global variable that Houdini does use for that is double F. So FF is for floating frame. And don't forget this, because even when you declare this, it might not even render as you want. So you need to tell them to save this with floating frames. And if we see the folder, let's just try to open the folder where that is. Just find it really fast here in my project. You're gonna see that the files are gonna have the naming like here. This is the main particles. Right now it's 001, 2, 3, and 4, and this is gonna change when we render this. Let's just hit render now, and you can see that it's rendering, and it's showing us the in between frames, and it's actually rendering 129 frame instead of just 32 or 33 frames. And in my folder here, I'm having this in between frames 1.1, 1.25, 1 and 1. It's just kind of gets screwed a little, but it works. So it's finishing. It doesn't take much for this to render. It's just very fast. So that's gonna give us in between frames, and it's gonna fill up more particles, which is gonna emit more particles in those holes and fill up the gaps, so the effect looks much better. Because right now it doesn't look that convincing, because there should be a volume turning into dust, not just the edge of the volume. Everything that there's leaving behind should translate into dust. So the volume representation is kind of maintained a little bit. So it's finishing here, and if I go to my files up right now, I can see that I do have between frames and it's working. And as I said, this file is connected to this guy, so it's whatever you render, I will load it, and they are friends. They care for each other and they like each other. So you can see if I drag here, because I'm not exactly in the frames, this might get a little weird. So you might want to use the steps, or use the left and right arrow to navigate right now. Here, as I'm doing, I'm using my left and right arrows to go and watch this, and you can see we have much solid representation between frames. There's not a huge jump between the frames, and that's gonna help us a lot. You can see even how that is cutting even more. If you need in your project to have even more in between frames, you can have them. I found that in this project having 3 extra frames between frames is enough, but you might need more even if your effect is faster or something. And this is because the effect goes in just about 10 frames, so it's very fast. So okay, that's done now, uh, and let's check it out in the particles world, or in the pops. Let's go to here, to the main particles, and if you run this, just run it, you can see I am doing the same thing. I'm not having that extra geometry there, but why? If I look here and I use my arrows, I can see that I do have the extra frames there. But what's happening, because this is supposed to be Houdini, and it should pick these things up, and it does picks that up, but here in the pops up we're not telling it to pick it up, because right now it only evaluates each at every frame. So let's go to a frame and see that it's moving frame 24, and now no, not moving until 25, not moving to 25. So we need to tell also the pops up to evaluate between the frames, and we do that here in the oversampling parameter here. So we're not going to tell to go to 0.25 here. We're actually, this parameter says that how many times between the frames it should evaluate to. So we need to evaluate it 4 times, and we could have done this without the extra geometry, but it would not emit particles. Just move the particles more, but not emit any new particles between. So we needed extra geometry there to fill up. So now if we tell it to evaluate 4 times at between each frame, including the frame, we have and rewind and play. Now we're having a lot more particles, and we have a stream. We don't have those gaps there, which looks very nice now. If we just play it back, you can see everything is going more smoothly. We have a few gaps here, but that's not gonna be as much as we had before. And since this is going to be very fast, we are having the figure form a lot more, and we're conserving the volume of the character here. You can see that we're kind of looking at the character there, and before we had a lot of gaps here, especially in the abdomen area. And you can see we're emitting a bunch more particles, and this is looking very nice now. And yeah, this is looking very cool, and the effect is taking over and we're still having that air that we put there. We can even maybe add another noise field to break more this figure or something. But I'll give that to you as another task if you want to. Just add a new node here and break it up, or play even more with the amplitude on the noise here, or the parameters of the noise, and make another variation of that. And you can see if I add more amplitude there this starts getting different, and that might be good, or just be what you want. You can tweak this to your liking. There's no perfect example right here. We're making this for fun and for learning the process, but I do like this kind of strands that go out, and how this breaks here. It's looking very nice. So now that we have this, you can see that this is getting slower and slower and slower, and we cannot play this in real time. So what we did with the for the geometry, we cache it to disk. We're gonna do the same thing for the particles, so we can play this back in real time. So here we're not gonna cache the particles here. We're gonna cache it here because these particles are just points. They are geometry, so we can use the same thing here. Just a rub output driver, and of course bring a file sub, because remember they are friends and they like each other and they like to work together. So I can already copy this and make that a reference. There we go. To cache this, we're gonna cache exactly like we cached the other one. We're gonna cache it go to 60 with these subframes, and we're gonna go to our geocaches, and we're gonna make a new folder for main particles and main, name this main particles, and have floating frames there because we need floating frames. I think that's it. So let's render them. So once we render them, they will bake to this simulation that we have. So if you want to tweak the simulation, you gotta go and tweak it and then bake it again. But this is very important to bake, because if you render this, you're gonna have less computation time. It's only gonna compute the rendering, not also the simulation of the particles. And if we didn't cache the cookie subs later, then it also had to compute that and stuff. So now if you can see, if we load the the file, we can just scrap this like crazy, and it will not work. But if we play this, it will play very nice. And we might even need more particles here, because there's not enough particles here. Let's go here and let me just add more particles, because I want 200 particles to go here. Actually, we're not emitting 200, we are emitting, let me just see how much. Right there, we're emitting almost 1/4 particles there, and we have like 30,000 particles there, because this is a rate, not a number of particles. So like we have like 50,000 particles right there, and that's looking a lot more solid and good as a volume. So, and also very slow now, so we need to cache that. And you can see this caches very fast. And so now we need to, of course, render these particles and have the scene ready for the lighting TD or the render guys to just hit render on us, not just because if we render right now, we're gonna have little tiny points, and we may use that. We may render sometimes the particles as just points, but we need a bunch more particles to have a volume like this. And since this is like a 2D scene, we're gonna make little spheres to render the scene. And so that is gonna be that's gonna be added here at this stage, and I'm gonna add them before I do this. So let's add a render sub right now, because let's just hit render to see what we have right now, and to see the difference between the without the render pop and with it. So it's gonna take a little while because there's a bunch of particles there, and we are rendering right now. And right now we're rendering as little tiny spheres. And what the render flag will do is just give us these spheres and calculate the velocity there too, so we have this nice particles. And it's rendering a bit slow because I have all those lighting things, my lighting that I have. Let me just turn the quality a bit down, or just render with the other one. Just try rendering with the other mantra node. There we go. This is a bit faster. As you can see, we have little tiny points there, and they are not as good to fill up the area. And let's see the difference when we add when we check the render flag here, and it's calculating everything because it's cooking again all these guys to have a good result. And there you go, it's cooked. Let's see how that goes, and we should have a little bit bigger spheres, and we will fill out the area a bit more. And let's check out, they are actually the same size. So let's make these spheres a bit bigger, because we are getting a lot of gaps here. So let's just make them 0.8, not much, because we don't want them to look like big spheres of flying in the air or something. You may want to do that in an effect that you have a character that goes into spheres, that becomes spheres. And they are a bit bigger there, not much. Just crank it up to 0.1. Oh, how much? That's not much, but we don't want them to look that bigger. So if they look to, if you have don't have enough particles, you may want to and we're actually not rendering the right node. That was what was happening, I think. And if you don't have enough particles, you can go back and add more particles and render that. Yeah, you can see we have bigger spheres now. I was not rendering the right one. So let's go inside here, and now they are too much. Let's just put this to 6.5 to see how that goes. And you can as you can see, as you know, you have to find the balance between size and how many particles you have. And there you go, I made a mistake here, and we have now huge spheres. And this may be good for an effect or something you want to do, so you know how that's made. And this looks kind of funny. It's turning into spheres. So let's put this back to 0.05065 and cancel that, because that's gonna take a while, because I have some environment lights and stuff. But you can see it's looking nice. If you need more particles, there we go. I like that size, and it's looking good. And now they are not blurring, and they should blur. So let's make another render. Let me just modify the one I have. I have a mantra render here, and just lower the sampling a little so it doesn't take as much to render. So if I render this frame now using motion blur here, let me see if that's let's see if that is rendering or not. Scheduler, yeah, it's just taking a bit longer. And what's wrong? They didn't have a render. Let's just close this and do it again. Oh, I rendered to disk, sorry. That's the problem. I render to disk. This render node here help us with the motion blur. So I did the wrong one again here. Just get the mantra one. Helps us with the motion blurring of the particles, and you're gonna see that right now I don't have any motion blur. So why is that? If I already activated that in the options for the render, well, you have to tell this node to use the motion blur from this guy to render. So if we go out here, right here, if in the main particles node, if we go to render, there's a geometry section. I mean, here, use geometry velocity blur for the particles. This is for particles or deforming geometry or stuff like that. So if you activate that now and shoot another render, that should have very nice motion blur now. And there we go, we have motion blur that now in the particles there. And now I think that they are a bit bigger, but you can tweak that in that flag there, in that parameter there. And so now the only thing left here is to just cache the particles and add some lights and render this, because it's all done. As you can see, the particles look very nice. You can and we are conserving the volume. We don't have those ugly gaps that we had before. And when this is in movement, it's not gonna look as fierce. It's gonna look like some uh, particles of dust or something that is disintegrating this guy. So there we go. We have the motion blur now. Never forget to turn on this flag, because if you're not gonna have motion blur as no matter what you do. So let's just finish caching this, because we haven't cached this with that much particles. So let's just cache them, load them here, and you can see it's very fast and not that much for caching, and points cache very fast. And when you import those guys in, they have all the attributes of the attributes and the flags and the properties that you define here. They are not lost, because Houdini embeds those things into the file. So let me just let this finish. In the other example, I did another particle system that should before this one, but it was not actually noticing a lot, so it wasn't as necessary. But you can see you can have as much particle systems as you need, and you can divide the geometry as much as you want. And since we are already kinda finishing here, there's not our effect is kinda done. We're gonna just make an overview of what we've done. So we bring the geometry to a new node. So we had this node for only our geometry, not messing with the animation or anything else. And then we just go there. I think that's enough caching. We bring all the geometry here in this node. We started cutting the geometry, and for the disappearing of the guy, and for the animation here. And then we export it, cache that, and export it to our different contexts that we needed. We made our particles here and calculated the velocity and added some nodes. This is a very simple network, but you can get in there and make it as complex or as you want. But for this effect, this is what we need. And then we cached it, and then we have our result. And right here, if we go to the, we can even make a preview of this and just make it bigger. There, just make a preview of that, and then we just cache the particles and added the motion blur for the render more realistic, and there we go. That's it. We are done. We are on the other side. We can make any kind of objects disappear now. We're doing particles now in Houdini. We can make some any other effects that we want. And now let me just show you this flipbook, how this is going. And there we go. We're done. the effect looks very nice, and now you can do it too, and you can apply this technique to any other projects that you have. So thank you for watching this. Again, I'm Baramix for Suji Tots Plus, and I hope to see you in next tutorial very soon. Thanks for watching again, and bye bye. That's it. That's our final result, and now you are a Houdini user. Later, bye.